Okay, welcome everyone. It is 5:30, and I would like to call the Tuesday, December 2nd Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Deputy Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Orth?
Here.
Trustee Whitaker?
Here.
Trustee Fowler?
Here.
Trustee Gallen?
Here.
Trustee Yedis?
Here.
Trustee Elfman?
Here.
President Mindrick?
Here. First order of business, as always, is public comment. If anybody has anything they would like to say, they can approach the podium, tell us your name and address, and we'll go from there. Anyone?
Hi, Don Graff, the Village Idiot from last meeting. Just want to say a couple things. First of all, the snow plows have been fantastic. You guys were, the guys on those plows over the weekend, on Sunday and Monday and everything, did well. The only other thing I have to say is this afternoon I got something about a sign-up sheet to see what we can do about the east side of the highway between Winnetka Road and Willow Road, some sort of barrier that we're petitioning the state of Illinois, IDOT, to put in. I'm assuming our whole neighborhood will probably sign it. I'm also assuming that the board will be behind this too. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Sure. Anyone else?
Good evening. My name's Tom Neiman. I'm at 2021 Old Willow Road. Recently heard through the neighborhood buzz the opportunity with the grocery store may be in jeopardy and may not be going forward due to a deficiency or flaw in the design of the building. My interest is there any truth to this? Is the situation with them changed at all? And if so, is the flaw so bad that we may not find a tenant for the building?
Okay. Patrick, do you want to address that?
Thank you. I'd be happy to. I would say there's some truth. What we've done is we've talked to both the owner of the property and the representative of Sunset Foods. Both are still open to getting a lease together, but they've reached a point where they're not really proceeding in the negotiations well. They're not making progress. So we've been working to try to talk to both to see if we can help them find a middle road. So I would not say that it's over with, but I would say it's in a difficult position. What it relates to, the best way I can describe it is site conditions.
It's site
conditions. It's about how the site will be delivered.
Okay, so you don't know of any condition within the building that is the point of focus of why they wouldn't go forward?
I'm not at liberty to share exactly the point that they are, the points that they're working on, but it's something that I believe is resolvable.
Is resolvable?
In my opinion.
Okay, very good.
It's ultimately, it's up to the landlord, the landowner, if they want a lease or not, to come up to a valid agreement. But President Mindrick and I are doing everything we can to try to push the process along.
Understood and appreciate it. Everyone's very, very interested and hopeful that we get a grocery store in our community. And it was just disconcerting to hear that it had come to a standstill and there was a flaw in the something below the floor of the building that had them concerned to the point where they wouldn't consider going forward.
Yeah, we feel the same way, and that's why we're working so hard on it.
Okay, so but there's nothing more definitive than that.
Nothing more that I can share at this point, no.
Do you have a target date that you think things may change?
No, I do not.
You do not. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Kim Worth, 1655 Orchard Lane. I wanted to bring up 1622 Willow Road. They've been a great neighbor, but there's a problem with the two parking places that are the furthest west on their parking lot that's directly on Willow Road. And I heard it had been addressed, but nothing's been done about it. The last two cars, when you pull out of Linder onto Willow, either way. You can't see if there's two SUVs, decent-sized cars, in those last two places. It's a little complicated because there's a bike path lane. Basically, it goes to Forest Preserve. We get a lot of bike traffic in the season, and you have to pull way out, virtually on Willow Road, to see the oncoming traffic from the east going west, and it's a really close call. You usually have to back up, because now traffic's coming from the west and you still can't see the east. Has anything been done or told to that building that maybe they could put only compact cars or something in that area besides, so there's two people that park huge SUVs.
Yeah, we've talked to the property owner, and he assured us that he was going to inform his tenants that they could not park SUVs in those spaces.
Yeah.
They were doing a good job initially when we were
Yeah.
monitoring it, but we'll get on top of that.
Yeah, maybe a reminder, because it is dangerous there. Okay, thanks, Steve.
Anyone else?
Kaya Rubenstein, 315 Linder Avenue, representing the League of Women Voters of Winnetka, Northfield, Kenilworth. I would just like to invite everybody, the V Group already got this, to the State of the Village's Holiday Tea on Friday, December 12th. The whole community is invited. It's from 10 to 11:30 a.m. at Winnetka Congregational Church, 725 Pine Street, Winnetka. You need to pre-register, RSVP. It's on here. I'm going to pass this around. We put this on Nextdoor. It's in the record, North Shore Holidays. We're very happy that President Mendrick is going to speak. Thank you so much. And that Patrick Brennan is going to speak. So we're very happy. And then there will be speakers from Kenilworth and Winnetka. And this year, the township supervisors, Gail Eisenberg from New Trier and Shiva Mohsen Zadeh, excuse me, from Northfield Township will speak. And we are taking a holiday collection for New Trier Angel Fund and the Northfield Township Food Pantries. So I'm passing this around to the audience because you guys all got an invitation, and I hope you will come. And again, you need to RSVP because space is filling up. I think there's 60 that can come, and also we need to know to have enough food because it's really good food and it gets eaten up really fast. So I'm passing this around.
Anyone else? Oh, I wondered if you were going to come back.
Kaya Rubenstein, 315 Linder Avenue. This is Hanukkah celebration that the Chabad of Northbrook Friendship Circle of Illinois is sponsoring. And again, I sent all of you an invitation. If you didn't get it, let me know. And we're inviting the community. It's a wonderful program. Last year, President Mendrick went. Every year, Trustee Orth has come. And this year, it's at Clarkson Park. Well, every year it's at Clarkson Park, third year. Thursday, December 18th, 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. So please come, dress very warmly, because I know last year you guys froze. We didn't get to come. But then inside, there's a Hanukkah party in Lustig Lodge, and they turn the heat on way before, so it's really warm in there. And there's really good food, and this year there's a Hanukkah Mania show by Randy. So please come and do RSVP. It's at the bottom, so I'll pass this around too. And if anybody wants to put any of these up in their businesses, let me know, because I'll give it to you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Okay. Let's move on. Item number 3 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of October 28th, 2025. Do I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Okay, Deputy Clerk, can we just have a voice vote, please? favor?
Aye.
Thanks, sorry. That was on me. I should have done that, Holly. Forgive me. Okay, item number 4, consideration of a request to purchase village-owned land near 466 Central Avenue. Would the gentleman who will be speaking like to come to the podium? Or single gentleman?
We're going to hand off.
Okay,
Good evening. My name is Warren James. I am a partner at Riva Development Partners. With me this evening is my business partner, Matt Nix, and from OKW Architects, John Talty and Neil Sangarath. We are here presenting very conceptual plans for a 4-story apartment building at 464 and 466 Central Avenue. That property is under contract and is immediately adjacent and contiguous to a village-owned remnant of Hawthorne Lane. Hawthorne Lane right-of-way consists of approximately 7,358 square feet. We'd like to acquire it from the village, to assemble it, and make it part of the proposed development. I'm going to turn over the presentation for the conceptual plans for the development so you can understand the scope, scale, and our proposed development to John Talty, OKW Architects. Thank you.
John, before you start, I just want to make sure that all of my fellow trustees here understand we are not judging or talking about the concepts that they're showing tonight. This is just simply to give us a flavor of the project. Our main focus is on this piece of property that they would like to acquire. This will still need to go through plan and zoning and all of the regular commissions, and we don't want to really pass any judgment tonight on the visuals that you're looking at, and we'll leave that to our talented people on those commissions. So with that, John, go ahead.
Did you take, hey Warren? Killing the vibe right out of the box. Let's see, what do I, thank you for those comments, Madam President, because we do want to focus on what we're here for, but at the same token, everybody wants to understand what is this thing, right? And what direction is it heading? I'm a member of this community as Warren is as well, and this transcends just simple architecture and planning. This is about placemaking in a place that I love and is very near and dear to my heart. So we're taking this obviously very seriously, and we want every step of this process to be reflective of that. The architecture that you see in this rendering is very, very preliminary, but it's offering you a sense of scale, of a stylistic approach to multifamily housing, materiality, and somewhere, along the line, this is going to evolve based upon our own dive into the project, and as well as the responses from the community at large. So, but we wanted you to have some understanding of where this was all going. The site, as everyone is familiar with, is on Central Avenue on the west side of Central, and is home now to some buildings that have seen better days. And so we're thankful for the opportunity to kind of bring new life and to the north side of Willow Road, and further kind of invigorate what is our downtown in Northfield, Willow, and Central and Hap, the convergence of all that. And we're confident that this project will help to do that, along with the new multifamily project that's sitting across the street a little bit to the south of this. The footprint, there's a single point of access off of Central Road along the south side of the building that's going to take us behind the building to access parking, not only for residents and guests, but also the lower level, the below grade parking deck that we have provided for this building. It's 62 units. It's 4 stories in height with a lower level of parking. It's very much a 4-sided building. We have to be cognizant of that, and we have to solve this kind of gracefully all the way around. There's our lower level parking that where the apartments sit above. There's 85 spaces below grade. There's 119 spaces overall. So we're parking at a rate of almost two cars per unit. There's a graphic here that depicts the access for the fire department. We've had meetings with the fire department, with the fire chief, both of Winnetka and Northfield, because we want to make sure that what we're proposing here can be safely and appropriately served if, God forbid, there is an emergency, and it's been fully vetted and blessed by the fire department, so we're confident in our approach of both access from a vehicular standpoint, a pedestrian standpoint, as well as an emergency vehicle standpoint. Typical floor plans, the ground floor is home to the lobby and amenity spaces. The floors 2, 3, and 4 are typical apartment units. Again, 62 in total. These are going to be larger units than kind of typically is the market. We feel as though that there's a demand for this type of, we know there's a tremendous demand for this type of housing in the North Shore, and the units are much larger than what is typically offered, because we feel as those who are downsizing from their single-family homes oftentimes are in need of more space than what a lot of market rate residential offers these days. From a massing perspective, you get a sense of how the building sits on the site. Chase Bank is down to the lower left of this image. There's an architecture office that sits immediately to the north of Chase, and then our building sitting mid-block with the access point again along the south side. It's important for units like this to have not only solid floor plans that offer very livable environments for the residents, but also outdoor space. So every unit is going to have a balcony, a substantial balcony that one can occupy and not simply step out onto. So we're cognizant of that outdoor living and outdoor experience as part of the overall design concept. There's also a terrace in the back of that courtyard that sits atop the parking lot, or the parking deck, which will be activated and accessed by the residents, all the residents in the building. From a massing standpoint, this is a 4-story building with a partially submerged parking deck. It's 55 feet in height, and we offer these site sections to give you some sense of context. The top one in an east-west direction that shows the proposed Skokie Valley Trail extension, the high tension lines, the ComEd easement. We're very, even though we have that ComEd easement to the west of us, the Skokie Valley Trail is an amenity, I think, that's going to be an important part of this community as time goes on. So as we've designed this building and further vet the planning of it, we want to have always in the back of our head that connectivity to that trail system. The lower section is a north-south section, and it gives us some understanding of the scale of this building relative to the neighbor to the north, for sure, but also the Chase Bank building to the south. We feel as though that this is not going to be an imposition in the community from a scale standpoint. We're confident that with the right kind of architecture, that we'll be a very good neighbor and an anchor to the North Central Avenue corridor. From an inspirational perspective, we included images like this to give everybody a sense of kind of quality, typology, and how we're thinking about the building. It's a small look into the way we think as architects in terms of assembling this. What we don't want this building to be is some cookie cutter multifamily development that we are often seeing in suburban Chicago these days. This is going to be more of a one-off development in a very special community. And one of the things I love about Northfield and the direction that Steve has given us over a variety of projects and investigated sites is that there's no architecture that is Northfield, right? There's no single vernacular that we need to accommodate. Instead, we're really focusing on quality of architecture, quality of materials, and kind of a building that can live for decades and decades in a more timeless way. So that has been our approach to this process. It will continue to be so, and we look forward to all the input from the village as we continue on. Now to the story at hand, and maybe Warren, you can jump back in here to speak of some of the issues regarding the right-of-way.
Thank you, John. It's a little bit small in scale, but you can see the red outline of the village-owned parcel. It is west of the subject property, south of property that is also privately owned. So it is the last remaining section landlocked and otherwise orphaned. You can see that it's characterized by buckthorn and other volunteer growth. It's low-lying. It is encumbered by an existing village fire hydrant and associated water main, as well as an utility easement for ComEd. Not the high power lines, just regular voltage lines that run through or diagonally across the parcel. You can see pictures of the existing conditions. It being landlocked, it hasn't been maintained in quite some time. And we'll close on a rendering of what it might look like a couple of years from now. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
So the right-of-way, this is more for the village side of the world, what was that originally intended for? Is it supposed to be a road that went through there originally, so there's really no use
I
for
know
it?
Steve has been doing some research into that.
Yeah, it is an old, it's the old Hawthorne Avenue right-of-way. I don't have any documentation that it was ever fully developed, but it was platted, and that ran along the edge, the east edge of the ComEd right-of-way, all the way up to the Fields property. And that over the years, segments of that had over the years been vacated as the properties along Central and frontage have been developed last 50 years or so. And this was, I think, the last remnant of that right-of-way.
Gotcha. And then I have one other. If you don't acquire this property, does that change how many units you would have in the building or anything like that from a parking standpoint?
It is principally, it is our desire to use it for parking. So while it could affect the number of units, it doesn't necessarily. It's just a question of parking ratio and average unit size. But it is logical and consistent with the pattern of development. You can see that the Chase Bank site immediately to the south of it lines up with the proposed parking. And I think in our earlier plan, we had noted that we were seeking a connection from one parking lot to the other to facilitate easier emergency access.
Okay, thank you.
Warren, can you go back a couple of slides? Early in your slides, you had a pretty good overview that actually highlighted the particular village parcel. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
So near the top of that slide, you'll see a long dash, two short dashes, outlining the area that this is proposed parking as part of this development. That's the village, that represents the village's parcel that's involved.
Any other questions? So if the board so wishes, we could now go into closed session to discuss the price of this parcel and come back when we've either reached a decision or not. So is everyone in agreement on that? Okay. So I would ask Trustee Whitaker to read that motion for us, please.
I offer a motion that we convene in closed session to consider setting a price for the sale or lease of village property.
So moved.
Second. Do I need a voice vote or? Deputy Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Orth?
Yes.
Trustee Whitaker?
Yes.
Trustee Fowler?
Yes.
Trustee Gallen?
Yes.
Trustee Yedis?
Yes.
Trustee Elfman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So the village board is going to go up into closed session. Timing-wise, it's tough to tell, but it could be 20, 30 minutes. When we come back, there's other items on the agenda. As there's time, we'll go through those and then be ready for the village board meeting to start at 7. So, thank you.
Well, there's Northfield prices and there's Winnetka prices, so please go with the Northfield prices. Or Mayberry. Oh, God, no problem. That's what we're up to the board, because that's a winner for sure. It's class and steel. Two buildings just north of Right, right.
Okay, we would like to return to the Committee of the Whole meeting. It is 6:25. We will resume this session with item number 6 on the agenda, which is discussion of village service delivery.
So Melissa's getting us set here as we get going. Thank you. I know we're only halfway through this current fiscal year, but the time is here for us to start working on the next year's budget. And for the village, our budget year runs May 1st. So by April 30th, the board has to adopt the budget running May 1st, 2026 through April 30th, 2027. So we're early in that process, and we really begin the process a little bit earlier than this as we start looking at what the estimated tax levy is. For us, it's interesting that we have a fiscal year running May 1, but the tax year generally runs on a calendar year. So when we're estimating the tax levy, we're trying to project basically half the property tax revenue for the current fiscal year and half for the next fiscal year. So it gets a little bit interesting, but that's also why we're working on this so early. Meanwhile, we're working on the capital plan. So the capital plan is, thank you. The capital plan is roadway improvements, vehicles, generally items that are long-lived, 5 or more years is how we look at that capital project. And we roll that out to the board. We're currently working on it now and have some pretty expensive spreadsheets projecting out what our needs are over the years. But tonight at the village board meeting, you'll be adopting, I hope, the full tax levy. That needs to be done by the last Tuesday of December annually to be valid and adopted. So one of our early big public parts of this budget process really is the establishment of goals and objectives. And this year, I've been with you almost a little over a year and a half now. During this time, I've been hearing a kind of a theme coming from the board of areas that you'd like us to consider doing more with or focusing on in future fiscal years. So as we develop the goals and objectives, I want to make sure that I have that planned and included in the budget process to the extent we can. So the goals and objectives will come to you at the January meeting as a draft for your review, discuss, and hopefully adopt at that meeting. Once we have those goals and objectives set, we're off to the races as far as putting the budget together to make sure that we have the funding recommended that's needed to accomplish the goals that the board wants us to do for the upcoming fiscal year. Of course, things change. You never know during the course of the year when things come up that we didn't expect. But for the most part, we really try to make sure we've programmed the expenditures we need to achieve what the board would like us to during that year. So we started with the working on the capital plan last month. The proposed capital plan, we separate out from the village board's budget discussion because there's a little too much for one meeting. So that's going to come to you at the February meeting as we talk about the capital portion and lay that out. And then I will deliver the proposed budget to you on February 27th, and we'll publish it online for the residents to be able to review it. In the budget process, by code, the village manager's responsibilities, partially as a budget officer, is to present to the board a proposed budget. And that is, the term for that is, I'm proposing this is what the budget is. And the board gets time, basically between February 27th and March 24th, to review that proposal and see if anything needs to be changed, adjusted, if you agree with the projections. In the past, you have scheduled a special meeting of the committee of the whole, generally in early March, to take a further deep dive, if you will, into that proposed budget. Answer questions, make sure things are included in the programming, minor tweaks here and there for what comes up. And we're prepared for that. The tentative date is March 10th. I know there are a couple of you that are potentially having a scheduling conflict that night, so it's a little bit of a rough night. We may pick something different as we come forward, but the goal is to adopt by March 24th. Now, with the change you've made to board meetings, it takes a little bit of pressure off us for the budget because you've given us an extra week. And I know a week doesn't sound like much, but in the budget development process, it is huge for us. Because what we're doing, basically starting in January, is looking at current expenditures. What we've spent, how we've spent it, and how are we doing on the current budget? Are we in the ballpark where we should be? We keep looking at those numbers all the way through the process, right up until the April meeting. But those numbers inform us as we start to put together the next year's budget, are we in the ballpark where we need to be? Because if we're blowing out the budget in one particular area, I want to know it as early as possible, figure out why, and see where we can adjust. So it's good timing for us that we get near the end of March for budget approval, because that gives us time to get all the February numbers in, to know what's been spent and where we stand. So all the invoices are processed, we get an end of the month balance. So this is the rough schedule that we've got planned now for the budget process. And as we develop that, there's a couple things coming our way that make this a little bit of a different year in my mind. As I mentioned, the budget really is our focus for resources and what we need to expend on core and enhanced services. And give you just a little bit of an example of the core and enhanced services. Core services are the things that we exist for. This is the reason the Village of Northfield exists. Police protection, fire suppression, emergency medical services. Those are core things that we provide for the residents that they can't effectively do on their own. Water delivery. Enhanced services are the extras. A great example of enhanced services, especially with the past week, has been snow removal from the sidewalks. Residents could do that on their own, but it's something the board has said, you know what, that's an enhanced service we feel we should be giving to the residents, so let's do that. The goals and objectives we've come up with guides that development as a proposed budget, as I said, but we've also got some areas where the board may want us to focus additional attention on for the upcoming fiscal year. So how do I find out what that is before I put proposed goals and objectives out to you and you go, oh wait, what about this, what about this, what about this? So what we're trying this year, and I've tried this year, is to get a little bit of an idea of some areas that I've heard that may be of interest to the board and kind of get you to rank them. So what I've asked for is tell me what areas you find in this proposed budget process. Tell me how important these areas are to you, and then tell me how we're doing in this area. So I hate to call this an experiment because I haven't done this before, but it really was for me of looking at trying to find a way to read your minds a little bit before we put those goals together. So what you see of this list, and I'm not going to read them to you, but you see almost everything is rated as a high priority by the trustees. Not so big a surprise for me, but we're also looking at some bigger things here. Where you see yellow, we had about half the group saying this is a high priority. Where you see red, more than half said high priority. Where you don't see any coloring at all on the how are we doing in this area section, it means there wasn't really a clear consensus from the group or a strong opinion either way. So let's look at the second item on the list, economic development for business attraction and retention. The group consensus is this is a high priority for the village board. And it's an area where we need improvement. It's not a bad thing. It's information for me as we work through the budget. So it doesn't mean that we're not doing well in this area. It means, in my mind, something that you want us to provide additional focus or enhancement to. And again, that's in yellow, so that was about half the board felt that way. That means there's others that felt we were doing acceptably or very well. So as I look through this data, there's three areas that really popped in my mind where I see it is a high priority and an area where we need to improve or the board would like to see us improve. Economic development I mentioned. There's also general economic development. What does that mean? Well, part of it's business attraction, retention, but it's also on how much outreach are we doing? What are we doing to try to bring in more good things that we want, much like the development you heard about earlier? How is the village being involved in that, and how are we spending resources trying to help make those things happen? And then the last item is resident outreach and communication. You see high importance, and it's an area where most of the group thinks, or about half the group thinks we need to make some improvement there. So as I work on the goals and objectives for the budget, I'm going to be working with staff to say, what should we be doing? What can we be looking at to make improvements in those areas? Some may or may not have an impact economically for us. So I've talked way too much already. Tell me what your thoughts are about this. Anything we missed? We only had a couple of write-in items, and there wasn't a clear consensus around those, so those are not listed on this.
Yeah, oh, sorry, Tracy.
No, go ahead, Andrew, you start.
Patrick, I want to say thank you for doing this. I think it was a good opportunity for us as a group to kind of reflect, but to do it individually and get some data. So thank you for that. One idea I had was, which services generate the most resident complaints or requests? We could kind of look at that as well. You know, is there something that we commonly hear from the residents? Is there something that regularly gets in the suggestion box that we could prioritize or not prioritize?
Okay.
I guess I would just say I'm pleased that these are the three things that came to the top, because I feel like it's been something we've all talked about at meetings in different ways over the last several months of this board's term. So, Patrick, what your plan from here then will be to take these three areas and try to figure out, you know, with your crystal ball, which is what are the best things you can do to move the needle on these three areas? Some may potentially cost money, some may not. You know, communications has always been one that I've been concerned about, and there may be ways that we can enhance communications to the residents that's fairly inexpensive. But obviously, economic development may be a different story. So is that a fair assumption?
It's a very good overview of what the plan is.
Okay. Does anybody have anything they want to add from this point? Okay. Patrick, anything else you want to cover in this topic?
Nothing on this topic.
Okay, great. We will move on then to item number 7, which is a discussion of employee hiring methodology. And I think, Patrick, this is yours as well.
It is. You know, it's been an interesting time in Northfield, especially in the time I've been here. Many of you may recall, or those who were on the board when I was selected, is one of the topics of discussion was really what's coming with our future. We've got an aging labor force. How should we plan for filling positions, moving things forward? And that was, if I was interpreting the questions right from the group, that was something that was definitely a focus of the board, is getting somebody that can make those hiring decisions moving forward. So we've gotten a few questions about how do we hire people? What's the plan? What's the process you use to make your selections? So we thought this would be a good time to work through that and just really give you a general overview of how we approach the hiring decision and the process. So generally, when we hire, there's 3 categories of employees we look at. There's the general employment decisions for mechanics, laborers, billing clerks. There's also sworn officers. There's a different process used for the selection of a sworn police officer. And the third category is department heads. So what I'd like to do with your indulgence is give you a little bit of an overview of each of those 3 areas, so you see how we approach them and my thought process for moving that forward. So this is a general for all positions. Just because we've had somebody retire, resign, move on, that vacancy does not guarantee we're going to fill that position. Every single time there's an opening, for me, it's an opportunity to look at how are we doing, do we need the position, and are we structured appropriately right now for what our needs are. Every single time, nothing is guaranteed. I look at an opportunity, is this a great time for us to restructure? Department heads generally handle their departments. I pick people that I am comfortable with making those hiring decisions with the support of Melissa and HR to make sure that we do everything appropriately, maintain the proper confidentialities. But that is their role. If they can't do that well and I can't trust them to do that, I need somebody else in the position. Because it's an important thing for us to make sure we've got the right fit to ensure that we're providing good service to this community. And then lastly, our hiring processes are confidential. There are some states, Florida is one that pops to my mind. Anybody who submits an application for a job, generally, that information is open to public disclosure. So at least in the village manager world, you won't find many active village managers applying for jobs in Florida. Maybe it's the hurricanes, but I believe it's also the fact that as soon as you apply, your name's in a newspaper. And if you currently have a job, you really don't want that information out there. That stays the same here. So as we have department heads and other employees that are looking to possibly move up through the career ladder, they don't want their current employer to know. So that's why we keep this confidential as we go through. We're protecting the applicant, and we're also trying to make sure we get the best applicants by having a good reputation for maintaining confidentiality. I've worked in 3 communities in this area. We all handled this about the exact same way. So, general position hiring. This one's going to be probably where I dive into a little bit more detail, but it also sets the background for the department head position. So as I mentioned, when we have a vacancy, a department head saying, hey, Patrick, can we fill this spot? And we start into that looking at and evaluating, is this a spot that needs to be filled? If it's a full-time position, could it be part-time? Could it be 2 part-times? What's our likely candidate pool? All questions we work through. Also, how's the job description and how long has it been since it's been updated? They have been a while since they've been updated. Melissa's smiling at me, I can see it now. We've brought in a new template for job descriptions that helps give us information about the job. So if, for example, an employee needs to go on a light duty assignment, or what we now call restricted duty, we have criteria for the lifting responsibilities, the standing, the sitting, all built in the job description. So if that employee says, look, I'd like to work, I don't want to be off sick, but I can't do my full job, we now have a set of criteria that that employee can hand to the doctor and say, here's my job description, what of these things can and can't I do? And that also allows us to look for restricted duty assignments inside. So the job ad's an important part of that process. And rather than try to invest in time in updating them all right now, we do it on a position-by-position basis. And if time allows, we'll get to more. We get a job ad out. Where that job ad is placed, advertised, depends a lot on the position. We look for professional organizations where people may be looking for job ads and where we had good success in the past. Sometimes it may be the Illinois City County Management Association, where a number of professional positions are advertised through different areas. Other times it may be Craigslist. Depending on where people are looking, Melissa's paying a lot of attention to what kind of the hot area is and what's successful. If we put it up on a big job board and we get a bunch of junk applications in, we're probably not going to keep using that service. We've shifted away from doing a lot of advertising in the local newspapers. A, I don't think as many people are looking there, and B, it is darn expensive. So we reserve that for a period where we're not getting applications to move forward. That advertisement's generally out for about 3 weeks. That gives applicants time to see the ad, prepare their cover letter, resume, et cetera, and send it in to us. It also lets us see if we're getting the responses we need and do we need to restructure the process. There's an interview team internally put together that reviews the applications in. That interview team will involve somebody with HR experience, Melissa or me, and also the departments. So the department head may have supervisors they want involved, or they may want to be involved directly. And then this is where it gets a little less structured, and that is, how many rounds of interviews do we have, and what happens in those interview rounds? We have sets of interview questions we use, so we keep those questions legal and helpful, because we want to make sure that the appropriate questions are getting asked, and the ones that we're not legally allowed to ask are not asked. We don't want to get the village in trouble there. But the writing of questions for interviews is really a skill, because you're trying to get into about an hour period, the heart of what kind of employee this is going to be for us. And picture trying to pick your spouse that you only got to meet for an hour. Because really, when we hire somebody, this is a long-term commitment. I don't bring somebody in for 6 months or, if it doesn't work out, we'll move on. If we make a bad hiring decision, it can be expensive for the village, both in lost time and revenue, but also in sometimes getting rid of the bad employee. So it's an important process for us. We want to do it right. So that's that second to last bullet point. The number of rounds we need of interviews and exactly what's in that is really based on the situation. Sometimes, first round, you have a candidate that comes out and it's like, this is our person. You just know it from the way they performed, the way they answered the questions. Other times, you're going forward saying, I can't tell between a couple. And we've got things we use to help be able to balance that out and get further information. We generally will not start reference checks until you have it narrowed down to either 1 or 2 people. For the reason I specified before, I don't want to call somebody's employer and their supervisor and say, hey, how good a mechanic is Billy, when the employer may not know that Billy's looking to become a supervisor. So my personal rule for my staff is when you're looking, if you've made it to the second round or it looks like you've got a good chance at this, please let me know. But aside from that, there's no obligation for employees to say, hey, I'm looking. Really, for me, it's that professional experience of let me know when you're close. A, it gives me an opportunity to try to keep them. B, it's also just good knowledge that I may be getting a surprise reference check call.
You have 10 minutes.
Okay. I can get it done in 20. So let me shift over. If there's no questions about that, I'm going to shift over to the sworn officers. Okay. This village has adopted in the village code a board of police commissioners. If you've ever heard of Police Civil Service Commission or Civil Service Board, this commission runs very much like that. Most towns did away with, or many towns did away with civil service commissions a while ago. This vestige is still here, where the village code grants the authority for sworn officer hiring, initial appointments, promotions, and discipline to the Civil Service Commission, or the Police Commission. It's a group of 3 residents that are appointed by the board that make these processes. And they have a pretty formal process for doing hiring. I won't read this whole list to you, but it starts out with a call for applicants, goes in through a formal screening process with written exams. We use an outside company to conduct that testing for both the written exam and also the physical fitness test. And then oral interviews where Chief Hutensky sits in with the police board, conducting oral interviews with the candidates, and then they rank everybody. Through that ranking, depending on if we have an opening, they go to the first candidate on the list and extend a job offer, conditional job offer, start background checks, polygraph, all those backgrounds to make sure you've got the right fit, and job offers offered by the police commission on behalf of the village. So, department heads. As I spent a good amount of my time building the basis for the general hiring, the department head position is very much the same. Often we're looking for department heads both locally and sometimes a further reach. It depends a lot on the position and where we think we're likely to have successful candidates. Quite honestly, police, fire chief, more than likely is going to stay local. Your public works directors may come from a different area. Less expertise for a particular region is needed for a public works director than it is for a police or fire chief, plus the certifications. For us, a lot of how we go through that process and the process we use depends a lot on the position. What kind of candidate pool do we think we're going to get, and how hard is that position to fill? Right now, I would say that probably one of the hardest positions to fill in local government is finance director. So if we needed to fill that position, we would put a wide net early to make sure we got as many candidates as possible, because we know from experience that's a very, very difficult position to fill. To get there, most of the people that apply will be technically able to do the job. But more importantly for me is what's the fit for the organization. So we can easily screen out those that aren't technically qualified, but then how are they going to fit with the rest of the department heads? What's their methodology on staffing? how do they treat their staff, what's their leadership style. There's a lot of higher level work that gets in there. So because of that, there's times that I'll bring in people from the outside, other police chiefs, for example, to sit in interviews to help guide us to see if we're missing something we go through this process. And ultimately, just like the general hiring, if we get to a spot where we are trying to vibe between a couple candidates and aren't quite sure which way to go, we've got a couple other tools in our kit we could use. One of those is a personality profile. It's an online process that's surprisingly effective at really telling you where people lean personality-wise, and it's a qualified pre-offer test. What that means is we can legally ask somebody to submit to this test before we give them a conditional job offer. So it's very valuable for us to be able to help weigh between candidates. And again, qualifications and fit are the biggest things for me to make sure that I've got a team that we can trust to move forward with the village's goals and objectives. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Patrick, thank you for doing this. I think this was a good exercise for all of us to listen to and think about as we're moving forward in your tenure here. So thank you for that. Anybody have any questions or comments you want to add to this?
I think part of the reason this was brought to a meeting or to discuss was the fact that in the past it had been mentioned that, you know, maybe the board should have some involvement in the final steps of a department head and the decision being made to hire a department head. But I appreciate you putting all this together for everybody to see.
This wasn't part of our packet though, right? You didn't, this presentation?
Correct.
Could you send this to us, or at least to me? I'd like
Happy to.
a copy of it to have this, be able to look back on.
Melissa, we can take this, put it on the website with his information so it's out there, but I'll send it to the board directly.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Anything from the public at this point? Okay. Oh, yes, Kathy.
Kathy Estabrook, 1620 Mount Pleasant. I didn't see anything about the application process. Am I missing something?
I didn't
I mean, do
put-
people apply, or do you have to apply? I mean, how does that work?
It really depends on the process. You speaking as far as submitting like a formal job application?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, not generally. We have a formal job application generally used for, I don't want to say lower level positions, but entry level positions with the village where somebody would be filling out a particular, they may not have a full resume to submit. Higher level positions like department heads, we get a resume, maybe a cover letter as a way to move through that process.
Interesting. Okay, thanks.
Okay. If there is nothing further, then may I have a motion to, and second to adjourn the committee of the whole meeting for the evening?
Motion to adjourn COW?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we'll be back here at 7 o'clock. Thank you.